Welcome in to the Brawl Network podcast. Here's your host.
And welcome everybody to another live episode of the Brawl Network podcast. It's me, your producer, Jay Andrews. You are also joined tonight by two very special gentlemen. Covering the Raiders for the Brawl is Micah Wright. You can find him on Twitter at Micah_Wright. And from the Chiefs, your world champions, it is Kyle Henning at KThen16 on the Twitter. What's up, guys? How you doing tonight?
Boy, it's nice to hear you say that. World champions thing, that is.
Not my champions.
He said they're not his champions. Come
Well,
on, Micah.
They are for now, and until we play games again, they are for the foreseeable future. So,
Well, everybody's champion until you crown a new one. That's the truth. So what do you guys got for us tonight?
well, I think we're gonna jump into just all the major four sports after 4.5 months or 5 months of layoff we've gone through. So we're gonna try and touch all the bases. Bad baseball reference to start off with. Why not, right? But we're gonna try and cover all the major sports. Probably not a ton of MLS because I don't know about Micah, but soccer's not exactly my thing. But the rest of the four major sports we're gonna try and touch on.
Well, I think Micah's having a little problem with his mic. All of a sudden he got quiet again. So we're gonna keep working on Micah's sound. We had it perfect before we started, but that's how it goes. So why don't you start, Kyle? You start us out in a little chit chat while we figure out what's going on with Micah.
Well,
I think I'm back. There we go.
Oh, there he is. Hey,
There we go.
and I
All
just said a pun. I didn't even realize it, but we were working on Micah's mic.
Oh, yeah.
Little double usage there.
There we go. All right.
We all good now? Everybody's all.
How about
there
that
we
for
go.
our first show?
Well,
It
that's why we
happens.
do this.
That's what happens on live radio, people. It's why we love it. All right, get us kicked off, man. What do you got for us, Micah, since you were so quiet before everybody thought you were shy?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely not shy. But, yeah, sports are back, man. 4 months. I got to say it was the worst 4 months of my life. Because didn't have school, so I just really just sat home wishing that I could watch sports. But 4 months off really sucked. And I think just for my brain, seeing box scores is just everything to me. So, I mean, that's just something really basic that I missed. So that's good.
Yeah, the 4 months of basically no contact and working from my basement because they moved us home and so on and so forth. It's been I'm glad that there's things to watch and talk about, and we have topics and games to comment on instead of just a bunch of, well, what do we talk about for 4 months while nothing's happening?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pumped, man. We got playoff hockey, so I'm gonna start right off.
That's my
You're the
favorite
big
time of
hockey
year.
guy. I love playoff hockey. I don't really know a whole lot about hockey, but I pay attention every playoff, so I'm into it this year.
Playoff hockey is something unlike pretty much anything else as far as the major sports are combined. It's 16 games to win the cup. They call it the hardest trophy to win in sports for a reason. It's a war of attrition as much as it is anything else. Everybody's banged up, everybody's nicked up, and yes, I know a lot of that sounds like the NFL, but 60 consecutive minutes of play, not whistles and 30 seconds of play clock and downtime in between. It's 20 minutes, and 20 minutes of running into each other at full speed. So playoff hockey has a different atmosphere and a different intensity. And I can understand why you jump into it, especially as the casual fan.
Yeah, I'm definitely a casual fan.
I grew up playing hockey, played it for 15 years, and I will unequivocally, undeniably say in my experience, even as doing MMA and playing football through middle school and high school, hockey by far has the most quick-twitched, it's the hardest, fastest, most violent of all of the contact sports.
Yeah, I've grown up playing it my whole life. I spent 20 plus years doing it, and Yeah, I played them all. I played basketball, football, baseball, you name it, I played it. Even lacrosse and stuff like that, where it's contact as well. And I've never been a part of anything that's quite like hockey as far as the collisions and the quick is concerned. But on the playoff hockey front, not everybody in the NHL bubble apparently thinks it's playoff hockey because there's not fans. I'm assuming, saw Tuukka Rask's comments along those lines,
boy.
Micah.
Yeah, I mean, so if you can't get, I mean, obviously everyone's in the same boat, right? No fans. So what do you get? I mean, you got to get amped up with your guys. Like, let's go win this cup. We're in a bubble. We know our situation. You know, if that's not enough motivation for you, Tuukka, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe, you know, it could have just been an excuse for a loss, which he didn't even play that poorly.
No, he played really well.
Yeah. I mean, it was
part.
just a wild quote. I mean,
It's a strange quote because after the way they performed in the exhibition, which was not good.
yeah, they just didn't care,
And
which was a lot of teams, but
yeah, you saw that was the only team in the NHL that had 100 points this year, and they looked like they could be ill-concerned with who their matchup was coming out of that round robin, which I guess is fine. The thing that bothers me the most about the quote is, and I talked about this, our Penguins Brawl episode dropped a little bit ago. I'm also the co-host of that, not just a writer for the Chiefs Brawl, but I do co-host the Penguins Brawl. We dropped it a little bit ago. I don't understand how you can start him if you're Cassidy at this point, because he just basically told your team, yeah, I mean, I'm here, but am I?
I mean, yeah. It's just I've never seen someone just absolutely admit how disinterested they were,
Well, and it's
especially in the playoffs.
And it was like you didn't have that same feeling and thought process after game one's double overtime win. This is only after you blew game two.
That's why I'm saying it could have just been an excuse. Oh, we lose. We're not interested. But you can't. I mean, you got to be all in the playoffs.
That's a weird quote for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the atmosphere being a little different, but your teammates are viewing it as playoff hockey. So if you're not, that's a tough sell.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll ever see that type of quote. Probably not from a hockey player again, but any sport.
I mean, there's literally a commercial for the NHL playoffs that says it's all about we. If you've watched it, they've streamed it 50 million times, but that was the most out of character for a hockey player interview answer question I think I've heard in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we had an all-time blunder, which I saw you tweet about. I was watching that Calgary game, just absolute horrible shift at the end of the game. You lose with 40 seconds left. Were they tired or what happened?
I don't even if you're tired, there's 40 seconds left in the tie game.
You can't change, man.
You can't make the wrong change because what happens there is Goudreau thinks that he's got help behind him and Alexiak just slips in the back door for an easy, especially after you battled all the way back from a 2-goal deficit and scored twice, and you can't give that away. But we saw stuff like this bubble's been weird. You see in 12 seeds, knockout fives. You saw Montreal beat Pittsburgh. The Hawks advanced. You had a bunch of strange things happen throughout the qualifiers. So it's naturally an interesting environment. But I guess you can say that he temporarily lost his head. You just can't change there. You can never, ever, ever change with 40 seconds left in the tie game and the puck in your own end.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, like, it was in their own end. You literally have them going into their offensive zone.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that was just all-time, just such a deflating loss after coming back.
And again, it's in the playoffs, it's 4 games a series, and any one of those things, it's just a coin flip at that point. Any little turn can change a whole series, and that you could see affect Calgary going down the road. But on that same notion, you watch what happened with Chicago, and I'm not going to cry any tears for the Blackhawks, but it was a heartbreaking situation, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, they played their. I mean, they got of course, you got Taves, Kane, Duncan Keith, those guys, but then you have all those rookies, it seems like, or first, second, third year players who just gave it all they had. But that was tough. I mean, Vegas is really good. They just blew them out game one. They're a better team, but if Chicago was going to win one and have hope, that was the one to do it.
Yeah, that feels very reminiscent of the Cleveland, the first game of the Cleveland Golden State series where LeBron does everything and they still lost, and then you just felt like it was over. I think that's the end of Chicago's real chances at putting any kind of dent in Vegas.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some MLB because I want to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals. So, I mean, it's a serious thing they're dealing with. Nobody wants to see anyone come down with the COVID, but I mean, are they just going to have to play double headers every single day?
Yeah, pretty much, I think, at this point, is what the MLB strategy here is. And it's weird because you've seen, and it's a strange thing with the MLB because the Marlins went through their shutdown and the Cardinals have been shut down, and they both had a bunch of crazy cases. But the Royals had 8 or 9 cases. Now, all of them were early and before the season really got going, but they weren't shut down. So it's I don't know what the MLB standards are. Obviously, those have been updated as we've gone here. We found out they were kind of do loose. As you please-ish, which seems odd, but hey, I guess. That's, again, the MLB, this whole pandemic has not been their best advertisement for how to handle things, let's say.
No, I mean, it comes down to leadership. You look at, NBA and NHL is definitely easier to create a bubble, but they made the plan. They're executing the plan. And, it's working. MLB, it's just, they really, they were worried about money between the players and owners and not really worried about what was more important, which was the health of everybody.
Well, and that's the weird part. You talk about the NBA and the NHL. So the NHL, if you're a casual fan and you don't follow it, they're notoriously bad at
that's right.
Correct. They do dumb things all the time. I don't know, that draft lottery circus that took place, but that's another story that we can if you wanted to listen to that, you can tune in either, I'm sure, of the hockey podcast. The both teams were talked about, had shots at that. The Predators and the Penguins both had shots at that crazy draft lottery that came out of this round robin tournament thing. But the MLB usually gets it more right than the NHL usually, and that's the dead opposite of what's happened the entire offseason here. The NHL got a CBA and got the pandemic thing done. The MLB did a bunch of public arguing, no COVID precautions, basically, until after everybody got sick. And then it was hey, you can't do this. And they're still battling it with Clevenger. I don't know. It's Major League Baseball is weird.
Yeah, the Clevenger and Plesac, which that's another thing.
that video.
Clevenger's just hanging out. And he knows. He's the only one who's I know that I went out with Plesac. I'm putting everyone at risk, but I'm just going to not tell anyone and then fly back with the team. That was another – and we'll talk about the NFL later with the Seahawks shenanigans, but, this is what happens. You're
always going to have a guy or two.
Yeah.
And, that's the way it is in the world. We see that with the whole, do you wear the mask, do you not wear the mask, everybody does their own thing kind of thing in public. It's the same concept, it's just on a professional sports scale. And you would assume that those guys have more responsibility towards those things, but that isn't always the case. So in this instance, it's not. But you get to it, and you get through it. The Cardinals are in an odd situation because, they've played,
5
8
games?
Okay, 5 games.
And everyone else has played at least, I think, 13, 14. So the MLB might just say, you know what, you guys, and their players are going to probably opt out. I would opt out if I was on the Cardinals. We got to play double headers every game.
Well,
and the Cubs are doing incredible right now. So, it's going to be interesting.
You get the ability to see the different levels.
Guys, do you guys ever wonder how teenagers and amateur hockey players and the AA and AAA baseball players that have to aren't making shit and got to travel from city to city on a bus can play 2 games in a day and 4 games or 5 games in 2 days and somehow their bodies manage it. But the minute they sign a $50 million deal, somehow their arm gets tired after 20 pitches, and they can only bat 3 times a game and got to have one off. Don't you really find that odd that all of a sudden it's about the money, that their bodies can't handle the workload anymore? Because sure as hell they can do it, and baseball's the worst at this. Like, I am so. Do you know why nobody cares about baseball? Do you know why I know nothing about baseball except for the youth baseball leagues my kids play in? Because they're a bunch of whiny, overpaid, underappreciated brats, and nobody cares. And there's no fun allowed in their sport. And I'm telling you what. If you threw a ball at my head or hit me in the ribs or the butt at 98 miles an hour, I am not going to come out there and pretend to throw punches at you. I'm going to come hit you with the bat. You threw a projectile at me, I have the right to hit you with the bat. It's equal playing field, okay? And they can't handle that. It's unwritten rule. Don't look at the crowd when you hit a home run. You can't throw your bat. Like, it sounds like a bunch of 5-year-olds that can't handle when they're getting their butts kicked, so they want to have a dumb excuse to throw a temper tantrum. Baseball's terrible as far as sportsmanship goes.
You just described the Houston Astros.
I was going to say that.
I was going to say, Jay, what if a hitting coach is telling your mama jokes, waving at you, come fight me,
after you got hit 3 times in one series and twice in a day.
Ramon Laureano, my guy. I'm an A's fan. I love Ramon. I'm completely on his side. I think everyone's on his side.
It's hard not to be.
I mean, yeah. Everyone hates the Astros. They're a bunch of babies.
Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly is an American hero. So
he got 8 games.
Do you know what the difference between the Patriots and the Astros are? The Patriots took their lumps when they got busted like men.
Yeah,
we got busted. And you know what? They were so ballsy, they went and did it again. And these guys are just whining. Yeah. Like, shut up, you cheated. You won a World Series, then you got caught. They didn't put an asterisk. They didn't strip you. They didn't even punish you. So
they gave you an alibi. They gave you an alibi, took your coach and your GM and tossed them under a bus and said, have a good one.
Here, you can keep your piece of metal.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're the commissioner of baseball, you can't go around saying that. But I mean,
you can talk about Rob Manfred all you want. That dude
opens that's his mouth a whole other show.
His foot every time he talks. Yeah. To Jay's point, my baseball. I mean, I've used to pay attention to it, and now like everybody used to call the NFL the no fun league.
MLB.
No, that's more baseball. Baseball is about as boring as it gets. There's a ton of downtime. Talk to me in October. The regular season's too long. I know.
Yeah, the MLB, the Major Baby League.
Yeah, it's really bad. I don't understand, and I hear the conversations from the old guys in baseball. Well, I don't care about the unwritten rules. I really don't. I also don't care that you think it takes 162 games to tell me who the best 5 teams are. Because it shouldn't take
as a casual observer just over the last 5 years or so of just kind of hearing people talk about it, do you know that baseball has ruined and destroyed more up-and-coming Hall of Fame players because of their unwritten rules? Yasiel Puig, or however he was actually probably going to really be a really good player. And then everybody started yelling at him because he was having too much fun. And he got all in his head, and now he's been on 122 different teams since then? That's not about talent. That's about being scared to perform because you're worried about, well, can I flip the bat or can I not?
Yeah,
and you're trying to hit a 8-inch projectile at 100 miles an hour. The last thing you need to be doing is worrying about whatever anybody's thinking. That's it, period. Yeah. And as soon as you put those things in there, you can't think, you can't hit anymore. Now he's been around the league.
Well, the other thing you do with that, the other thing they ruin people with is their service time crap, where they don't bring a guy up because they try to extend how many years they have him under contract because he doesn't play a certain number of games. And there's all these everybody thinks the NFL salary cap's confusing. Go look and try and decipher MLB. And figure out baseball contracts because they're just a crapshoot. But I almost feel like we've spent too much time even discussing baseball just because of how nonsensical it is. The fact that Kelly and Laureano basically have had more suspension games than an entire roster full of guys that cheated is just the definition.
That's all you need to know.
NBA, the NBA, on the other hand, continues to do most things right. Again, like
yeah. I mean, I'd forgotten all that Gary Bettman was about, so I shouldn't have even compared him to Adam Silver. I just was
Gary
focused
Bettman
on
is one peg above Rob Manfred, but that's fine.
Adam Silver, I think, is, everyone considers him by far the best commissioner.
They do that just because everybody likes to hate Roger. I still think Goodell's technically a better commissioner, but because Adam Silver likes to do the pro player, pro this, pro that, supportive, I get it. He's the pro player commissioner. He's not the big bad guy. He lets them pretty much do, look at the jerseys in the bubble, the display, that stuff that the NBA starts and does, and they're the progressive leader, and that's fine, and that's great. But let's talk about commissioners. One of those guys gets paid how much a year? If I'm giving you Goodell's salary, or I'm giving you Silver's salary, I think you're taking
$48.5 million a year, I believe, is what Goodell makes.
Yeah. And you know why that is? Because since he's basically taken that thing over from Tagliabue, it's exploded.
That's a good point.
The first TV contract that Goodell did, I think, was for $9.5 billion over a 5-year period or something.
And that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first one, but that was way bigger than anything Tagliabue ever did. It changed the way the league could operate.
Now, what the NBA has done is that bubble down in Orlando is
awesome. It's awesome.
Damian Lillard and Paul George and Patrick Beverly and all the back and forths on Twitter and the dudes going to watch each other in the stands like it's an AAU tournament. It's like high school ball again.
Oh yeah, it's an AAU. It's basically just an AAU game.
You have the best players in the world.
Yeah, and all of them. I mean, I'd say every single guy is probably the healthiest they've been, unless they get hurt in a game in the bubble. I mean, they've had so much time, and most of them have courts in their homes. So, that was the thing that Tuukka Rask was talking about. We can't really get in shape.
That's not true.
Which isn't, again, that's not true.
Crosby spent. I can tell you with almost certainty that the top skaters and players in the league, around the league, I know almost for a fact Crosby spent pretty much every day on the ice. Just like McKinnon, because you got to remember, most of those dudes are from small towns in Canada.
Yep.
They have direct access to the rinks, especially in Cole Harbour, in Montreal, where Sid's from. He basically runs that town. So, Rask's thing about not staying in shape, no, dude, you're a professional athlete. Stay in shape.
Yeah.
Speaking of running a town, there's a couple of guys in the NFL that are going to be running their towns with the money they just got paid. One's one of your guys on your team there. Why don't you guys talk about the big tight end contracts that just dropped? I mean, you would say it's ridiculous money if wide receivers weren't making $21 and $22 million and not as good as these guys. So.
Yeah, the fact that one of them is a better receiver than most receivers in the NFL and is getting paid $6 or $7 million less than them now it's his third deal and it's an extension, so there's some nuances to Kelsey's deal. But the guy's got 4,000-yard seasons. He's got everything you want, and by the way, he's plays with the best quarterback on the planet.
Yep. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm happy that Travis Kelce got extended. I was telling myself, all this money, and I had to remember, salary cap has nothing to do with, all these extensions. People are acting like, well, the Chiefs had $177. How are they extending people? That's not how the salary cap works.
It's accounting. It's a ledger. The salary cap is a ledger. And Field Yates corrected that, by the way. It's $171. Not 177. I keep seeing guys quote it with the wrong numbers, and it's like Field updated that, guys. But yeah,
if this was really about the salary cap being that hard and unmovable, Tom Brady wouldn't have made the hundreds of millions of dollars, only making $13 million against the cap a year.
Hey, he took team-friendly deals. Don't you know he took a discount? Don't you know that?
Yeah, he took the discount of what you call give me money in my bank account now so it lowers the cap hit and makes me look good.
Signing bonus.
I made $40 million this year, but the cap hit was only 12.5. Doesn't it make me look good? I mean, and it does make him look good because against the cap, it is team friendly, but it's the reason why he's doing it is because they pay him now. Why do the Packers do such a great job when it comes to contracts? Because they underpay everybody, but what do? They give him a bunch of boatload of money right now. And then by the time the guy realizes he's getting underpaid, Devontae Adams is a cap hit of $14.5 million.
He's worth 22. According to the rest of the league.
And why did he take that deal when even then the guys around him were making 16, 17, 18, and he took a deal that his first year only paid him like 12 or something like that? Why? Because they gave him a bunch of money up front that didn't count against the cap. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's all the Chiefs are doing. The Packers, you can't, and this is where Mahomes comes in. That deal, 2022, it's tradable. Because you can extend money out, you get to take it. There's so many loopholes in these deals for these quarterbacks that they're literally 2 or 3 year deals before you can get out of the rest of the deal. Patrick Mahomes, 3 years. After the first year of his first extension, because of the way they did it, they can start to move money around and do all kinds of crap and create tons of cap. If you read the intricacies, it's genius. Every team does it. The ones that have good rosters and can win a lot can pay guys and make it look like they have no money and still every year somehow keep the guys they want to keep. Well, it's just the way the NFL works.
Yeah, and the key to the salary cap, and everybody says, they're the Rams. No. The difference here is between the Chiefs and the Rams is the Chiefs have paid the correct people. The Rams paid the wrong people. You can do pretty much whatever you want with the salary cap until you spend the money on the wrong guy.
You don't have to tell me. I've seen it for my whole life.
I'm not going to jump on, and I actually don't, although I'm going to ask you a question about your Raiders here in a minute because I saw the quote today, and it made me laugh out loud a little bit, just Gruden. But I to give you a preface of what I think, what I'm going to ask you about here in a minute. But the Raiders paying Gruden was a great thing for them to move and do and whatever. What he just said about Derek Carr makes you feel how?
Which quote was that? I'm not
I love Marcus Mariota. He looks electric. He makes me excited.
Oh yeah, he's been saying that since the draft.
Is it literally anybody but Derek Carr makes John Gruden happy? Is that what it is? Like, I genuinely want to understand.
Yeah, but then at the same time, I mean, John Gruden loves every single quarterback on the planet.
That's why John Gruden's going to trade a bunch of people and get Aaron Rodgers in 2022.
I think I'm all in on the Aaron Rodgers.
I can see him going home.
That's if the Rams don't trade 5 of their future first-round picks that they don't have right now to try to get him by then.
Well, they gave those all up for Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Well, they got a bunch. It's such a weird thing. They got Khalil Mack, and now they're out
all
of picks.
All of them are over with now. It turned into Abram, Jacobs, and
which Josh Jacobs is great.
Yeah, I love him. I'm much happier keeping Jacobs and Waller, and makes it easier to get rid of Carr. I mean, I think a lot of the Carr hate. I mean, my thing is, it's a mental thing against the Chiefs. For
it's like
someone,
Phillip Rivers, all over again, which I'm okay with. By the way, in case anybody's wondering.
He's saying now he's like, I'm adopting the Mamba mentality. I'm like, don't tell us. Let's see it. Let's see you be a top 10 quarterback. Like, it's just all result. It's a results-based business. Raiders fans are gonna be crazy no matter what. They're gonna hate you if you have a bad game and end up being MVP of the league. I mean, it's just I don't know what it is about him.
Would they hate him less if he stopped fumbling out of the end zone and giving us the ball? Is that what? Yeah. Like, that seems to be his go.
Those are the things, and then the whole picture that is going to be sent every time he gets hit, where it was against Seattle and he looks like he's crying. Those are the things where you're just like, man, this.
Does he wear mascara? Is that real?
It looks like mascara. I don't know how it isn't, but.
Are we? I mean, they can call it eye black, I guess. Jay, you said you're a Packers fan. We talked about where Rodgers is going in the future. Did you listen to any of his Kyle Brandt interview, the 10 questions with Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football?
I've listened to some of it, but I've been busier than crap, so I haven't gotten a chance to listen to it all. But I have listened.
If you guys haven't, if you haven't listened to the whole thing, go listen to it. Whatever you have to say about Aaron Rodgers, whatever your feelings are, the dude is interesting as all hell.
I mean, the whole thing where he's like, Well, I mean, he's saying, TV is this, which.
When he
I mean,
rags Skip Bayless and when he rags
he's
Skip
like,
Bayless and Stephen A. Smith.
Everything's clickbait, which, I mean, I think all players feel that way. You can't really hate on him for that. But just the coolest thing ever was going to the Lord of the Rings, where they filmed Lord of the Rings and all that. It's just like, you know what? I wouldn't mind just hanging out with Aaron Rodgers and him just telling me about his weird life experiences.
Well, and him finding out you're talking about some of the guys that he knows that you'd never think he has friendships or relationships with that are just random people that he interacts with that are superstars in their own right, but you'd never think they'd have any kind of correlation or connection to each other.
Yeah.
But, the Skip Bayless thing brings me to something back with the NBA topic. The Skip was all over Damian Lillard, and now I'm not going to say win. If Damian Lillard wills Portland to another win over Memphis, they're going to play the Lakers.
Yeah, my Lakers too, by the way.
Now,
so I'm just giving all my teams out, but Skip Bayless. I'm going to say this. We need guys like Skip Bayless. And I know Jay was talking about it, how Skip's a genius and Colin Cowherd, those guys, on a previous podcast. But, yeah, he's just – I mean, the fact that Damian Lillard spent an hour talking to Skip Bayless, that blows my mind. Why would you worry about what Skip Bayless thinks of you if you're Damian Lillard?
Well, the conversation Dame had, and if you read his tweets after he tweets Skip, he says, yeah, all that backpedaling you did through that conversation we had where he was trying to see if the dude was legitimately what he was about and found out he was just about the takes to get the clicks to make the cash, which is what Rodgers talked about in some of that interview with Brandt.
Do you know why players care about what Skip Bayless and Colin Cowherd say and do?
Yeah, it's the narratives.
I can't really put a name on it, but it's the same weird kind of crap why all of a sudden you can just have women and men just half naked take pictures, put them on Instagram, and they're called quote unquote influencers with millions of followers. They do nothing. They just go to places, take pictures of themselves, post them on the internet, and somehow they're celebrities.
And that's what I mean by the narrative.
That's the same phenomenon that goes on with these guys that have figured that out, and they're geniuses, and players know that people, they cling to those things, and then they, create narratives, and then it creates chaos and problems for the players. That's why it annoys them. They know who the real journalists are and that. And they don't mind media. They mind that kind of media.
Yeah. That's my whole thing.
I'm still trying to figure out what Bayless and Cowherd did specifically, because they were all about Aaron Rodgers. Get rid of Brett Favre, Brett's over the hill. And then as soon as it happened, Skip was all about Brett and not about Aaron. I have no idea what happened. Still trying to dig in and find out, but something happened.
He's the king of the spin zone.
What happened? So the narrative thing, you're 100% right. I talked about it on Penguins Brawl. We have this problem where Jack Johnson is a addition that basically the entire NHL, the group of the NHL fan base thinks is just the worst defenseman that's ever played the sport. And it's not true. He's not. He's not great. He's not anywhere near what he used to be when he was originally drafted, because he was drafted to be a superstar. But the narrative is he is literally just the worst human being that's ever played hockey. And because the same 7 talking heads said it for 5 years, it's now a thing. So now every time he moves or does something, it's his fault, even if it's not. Even if it was the other guy's fault that was on the ice, the entire time it's blamed on him because the narrative fits. So you're right. These guys complain and have issues with that crap with those guys that do that, because once it's said, that little check mark gives them a platform that they never had before, or that the TV skit, the little clip that goes out on the internet. They don't get the whole interview where Colin says, for 14 minutes of the 14 and a half minutes he talked about Aaron Rodgers, how great he is. They clipped the 30 seconds where they said they need to trade him and he sucks, and then they put that out, and that's what gets the clicks. Same. Now, Skip takes it to a different level where he's got this weird headspace thing with LeBron and a couple of other guys where they just live in his free space in his brain. He's taken it to where, it used to be an act, and now I swear it's like a thing for him at this point. With a couple of the guys, he still does his
older,
I like.
That's his problem.
Yeah, right. He still does his I like to take thing, but he goes nutso deep in with the LeBron hatred. LeBron set up voting stuff with David Price in Dodger Stadium. I'm sure he's got a hot take as to why that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, my thing with Damian Lillard is, I mean, just write your own narrative. I wouldn't spend a second thinking about what Skip Bayless thinks.
Write a diss track.
But
write a
diss track. Exactly. That's exactly what
he
Dame
calls
should
himself
do.
Drip Bayless. Write a diss track and make fun of him.
Yeah. Everyone would love to see that. Just all you need to do if you don't know what we're talking about is go through Skip Bayless's Twitter. Every time he tweets, those are the people replying to him. I mean, that's all you need to know about Skip Bayless. Nobody likes the guy, but he gets all those interactions.
It's Clay Travis. That dude says the most outlandishly wild things he can find, and everybody clicks on it to tell him how dumb he is. It blows my mind. I've just never understood why. Guys, if you don't like him, don't give him the platform. Don't give him the interactions. Ignore him. But they don't do it, and they just let it run. It's a wild thing, and that's why guys like Aaron Rodgers and Damian Lillard takes the time on Twitter right now because they're in a bubble. They got nothing to do. He got all the time in the world to sit on Twitter and respond to Skip's crazy crap right now. Because what are they doing in their free time? Chilling?
That is a good
They're not
point,
doing what the Seahawks are doing, or at least what the UDFA from the Seahawks was doing. They're not doing the who was it? Clipper.
Lou Williams.
Chicken wings.
They're not doing the
going to Magic City.
Chicken wings. In a strip club.
Hey, man, they're named after him, I think, or at least that was the rumor I heard. They're Lou Williams.
He's got his own
wings.
Yeah.
That means you know how much time he spends there.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
Other people have said the food is really good. That's wonderful. It's still Magic City. But at least he didn't try what the Seahawks tried. I'll let you, if you guys have missed this, I'll let Micah explain to you what, who was it? Well, I can't even think of his name.
Remember his
name. Undrafted free agent.
All you need to know is he's an undrafted free agent.
He was an undrafted free agent. Now he's again free agent.
And I just loved, I think it was Louis Riddick who was like, dude, you're sneaking in a girl and disguising her as a teammate.
As a player.
I mean, it's just, again, these bizarre things that happen. It's just these few guys on a team that go out and do this stuff. And I think it was Mike Vrabel who said, I hope she wasn't the size of a football player.
I was getting ready to ask if you'd seen that quote. If you read the comments underneath the Vrabel quote that Field Yates put out, people are losing their minds. He's fat-shaming her. He's calling her body shape. No, he said, I hope she's not the size of an NFL player. And if she can pass as an NFL player, I mean, to each their own, dude.
Yeah. I mean, this is we're in crazy times. I mean, this is just entertainment. It's nothing more than just a joke at this point. And the guy, I mean, it'd be, I don't know what the reaction would be if it was a star player. You're not going to cut the guy. It's just going to be a running joke for his whole career. But this guy, if you should be the last person bringing someone into the facility. If you don't even, you're probably not even going to make the team anyway if you don't do anything stupid. I mean, it's just, it's just such a wild story.
Being expendable and then doing things that make you extra expendable, not the greatest idea.
I want to know who gave him the ecstasy and the Viagra in his purple drink. That's all I got to ask.
It's definitely a bold strategy. I don't know that I would have opted for it, but it's a bold strategy. But I know we're getting down to the end here. We're getting a little bit closer, but I did want to ask Micah, what's the take on the Kittle deal? Because that's not where it's like spread out over 6 years like Kelsey, and there's a bunch of extra room. That's a pretty much guaranteed deal, and it's a bunch of money.
Yeah, I mean, he's really the face of the franchise. So, I mean, I think as much of it is as it is a deal to, help your team, it's also the fans getting reassurance that he's their guy and he's going to be a part of the team. But it's always a risk. I mean, $15 million per year for a tight end is, pretty unheard of in the NFL up to this point. But he's one of the best players in the league. So, I don't really have a problem with the money, but, and it's different than Kelsey's deal, like you said. So, I mean, you just hope it pans out for him. But
and that's the thing with them. He's so much of a centric piece of that offense that,
He's the piece.
Yeah, he's the cog that stirs that drink, whether it's the run game or the pass game, because they do so much out of it with Shanahan's play action system and the run game and everything that they do. And that's where I don't even really try to get into the Travis Kelce Kittle debates, because we've done that. You've seen the Twitter. If you haven't seen it on Twitter,
Yep. It's
on Twitter. There's plenty of conversations about it, but they're different players almost entirely. They asked to do totally separate things pretty much anymore. When Kelce's career started out, he was asked to do more run blocking and things like you see Kittle do. And as time's gone on, he's just so good at running routes. Like, he doesn't even have to block guys sometimes. He just runs off to the corner and two guys go with him, and he's the equivalent of blocking two guys, and he doesn't have to touch anybody because they just run with him.
I mean, and Andy Reid, there's a lot of the multiple tight end sets where might as well just slide him out as a receiver. He's a constant mismatch. So, you can't really dock a guy for not being asked to block. Like, they don't need him to do that, so he's not doing it. He's just better than everyone else at what he does, which is as a receiver.
Yeah, he's so there was a whole conversation and things about back and forth and non-stuff like that, but he's such a difference maker when it comes to the route tree. He's got everything in his bag, and he can do whatever he wants. So I don't know. I'm just glad that we actually have, sports and on-field activities. Camp is running. Hard Knocks is up and going for those of you who are Chargers and Rams fans.
Which is just a reminder that COVID-19 exists.
Pretty much.
The first episode, that's all it was. But
yeah, it was really, really weird episode where they basically just talked about, how Anthony Lynn got COVID and then some other people had COVID, and now we're doing better things against COVID, which that's what we're dealing with at the moment. But it's good to have actual sports scores and things to talk about. So
definitely.
Well, fellas, I don't have too much more. I guess check us out when you can and see what we got for us. But with that kind of stuff, Jay, you got anything else you want to give us?
Well, it's the world of sports, and it's great to have them back. It's going to be even better to have football come back. And you know what? It's not just us. We're going to be here every Friday night with these guys, so tune in. It's live. We'll try to streamline a time. This week is kind of hit and miss with everybody. Go ahead, Kyle.
I do want to, before we forget, the intro for this was done by a friend of the network and a guy on the network. His name is Tyler. He is extremely talented. Check him out. Tyler. I'm trying to remember the handle. It's got a bunch of extra letters in it, and I'm trying to.
It's Tyler with 2 R's, done with 2 N's.
That's what it is. I knew it was a double on the letters at the end. I couldn't remember how it was spelled
exactly. Double R's,
exactly,
double N's.
There it is. Anyway, he put that awesome intro you listened to at the beginning with some of the most memorable and iconic calls throughout the history. So, thanks for doing that for us, and I'm glad everybody got to hang out with us, Micah. It was good to do this with you. Jay, Thanks for everything.
Oh, you guys are welcome. It's a pleasure as always. Micah, you got any final thoughts before we get the heck out of here for tonight?
No, man. Just once again, reiterate, sports are back. It's just such a good feeling.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's all I got to say.
All right, we are off for the weekend, but it'll be back on Monday with USAID again, and it'll do it all over again. And if you have missed out on any of the episodes Monday through today, and this one, even when we're done, will be archived. You can find it on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, CastBox, anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find this podcast. We're out of here for the night.
I got my fans in
Hit up the guys on the Twitter at Micah_right and at KThen16. I am at UPJ33. Hit up the Brawl at Network Brawl, and also follow, like, and share our Facebook page by searching the Brawl Network. You can also find us on Instagram by searching Network Brawl. We love you all. Off for the weekend. I'll be back on Monday with somebody else. Well, you say, to be specific. Have a great weekend. We're out.
Now look me in the eyes and put your hand in mine. Forever's about to happen right here in this moment of time. So let's draw a line right here in the sand, and let it be said that on this very day is the day that we took a stand. Cause not just a game, it's more than a game, it's more than the hurt, it's more than the pain, it's more than the glory, it's more than the fame. This right here's about legacy, man, so it's bigger than me, it's bigger than us. We can lose sight in the midst of the fuss, let's slow it down and take it in. Enjoy this moment, what's the rush? They wanted back, but we wanted more. This is what we've been waiting for. With tears in our eyes, we let our hearts roar. Unleash war when we walk out this door. We won't be delayed, we won't be denied. In the end, we won't refuse with clear eyes, a full heart. There's no way that we can lose.